Okay, friends, I apologize. I am so sorry. Have no idea what was going on with the technology. It's such a bummer, but I am going to go back to the beginning, and I'm just going to have to, you just have to look at my mug while I talk on these slides, and I'm going to maybe try to upload it later. You guys can tell me what you want me to do. If you want me to do just talk right now, I can. Or if you want me to just record this and then upload it to the group, I can do that too. I apologize that this is not working. I'm so sad because I have awesome slides to show you. So let me know what you want me to do. I'm happy to just record this like tomorrow morning and put it in the group or whatever you want to do. But I just love you guys for being here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Melinda. Okay, keep going. All right, talking works. Okay, you guys rock. You have spoken. All right, so I want to know, I think you heard, I don't even know where I left off. Just talk, upload the slides later. Got it. All right, friends. All right, well, I'm going to do a brief introduction. I'm Kathleen Burse, LCSW. I have been where you are. I have been stressed. I have struggled with not having self-care in my life and not being able to set boundaries. But thankfully, now I call myself a recovering people pleaser, and that is the truth. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep going, and you might see the side of my face sometimes as I look at my screen, but that's okay. And I thank you guys for your grace in that, and I will definitely upload the slides for you later. But I want you to know that everything I'm sharing is from personal and professional experience. This is stuff that I used to struggle with and sometimes still do. So we're all just kind of works in progress and figuring this stuff out. I want you to know that by the end of this class, you're going to be able to be encouraged and inspired to set boundaries in your own life, be willing and able to take charge of you, ready to shed your people-pleasing ways, and able to start setting boundaries like it's your job, because it is. All right, why are setting boundaries so difficult? It's because people are afraid of making other people feel bad or themselves feeling bad. They don't want to feel guilty about setting boundaries. So I've heard these things from people. I'm afraid of offending people. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I'm worried about coming across as mean. I fear their response. What if they don't like me anymore? If any of this sounds familiar, then you are in the right place. But what happens is it's a vicious cycle, and we worry about what others think of us, and then that keeps us stuck. So once we allow people to repeatedly behave in unacceptable ways towards us, then if they know that we're not going to stand up for ourselves, then the cycle is bound to continue, and that is no bueno. So not anymore. We're going to explore some ways to break the cycle for good. And it is possible to set boundaries without feeling bad. So I hope, even if there's skeptics in the crowd, I cannot wait to prove you wrong. Okay, so I am going to deal it to you straight. I want to let you know I'm going to speak the truth in love tonight. Some of the things I'm going to say are pretty hard to hear, but I had to hear them too. So I'm right there with you. I'm not speaking like I'm better than you. I'm just telling you, if you want to learn about boundaries, this is the hard stuff that we have to know. Okay, we have to acknowledge our part in the relationship. So I used to think like boundary setting, if people in my life who didn't respect my boundaries, or people in my life who were toxic or difficult would just like change their terrible behavior, then that would make everything okay. But unfortunately, and maybe you found this too, it doesn't always work that way. It rarely works that way. And so the alternative is that we have to set boundaries, and we have to ask ourselves, how am I contributing to the unhealth that is taking place? And that's a hard question to ask. So maybe just think about that for a minute. All right, we're not helpless victims at the mercy of other people's moods and behaviors. Most people who struggle with boundary setting tend to blame the other person, like I said, rather than asking how they contribute to the unhealth taking place. So this was the first truth that I had to learn in my boundary setting journey, and it was a powerful one. I may not be able to control other people, but I can always control me, and you can always control you. So once you recognize this and really start to live it out, you will have changed relationships and healthy relationships. But I want to give you a word of caution as we proceed. It's not going to be easy for us people pleasers. Trust me. Like I said, I'm a recovering people pleaser. I know. But I also want to encourage you that we can do hard things. So let's get to work. Okay. I want you to journal tonight or at some point this week. Journal your responses to the following questions. I'm going to try to talk slowly, but again, I will upload the slides later, so you will have them all. I promise. Because, man, I worked too dang hard on them for you not to have them. Okay, So journal your responses, or if you're not a journaler, just think about them. What are you currently letting people get away with? What are the ways in which you typically don't stand up for yourself? And if specific people or situations come to mind, I really want you to write those down or think about those. It's important to figure out exactly the situations that you're having trouble setting boundaries in. What reasons do you give yourself for allowing people to mistreat you? And then how have you tried to set boundaries in the past? And has it worked? Has it ever been effective? Okay. Self-care to-do list for people pleasers. It is important that you implement self-care that specifically pushes and challenges you to take care of you and fill your own cup before you rush to meet the needs of others. This is a common struggle for many people pleasers and recovering people pleasers. But I want to talk about how specifically tonight boundary setting is self-care. And I want to let you know that if we fail to take care of ourselves in this way, we are going to result with a steady stream of resentment and bitterness. And that's just not fun. Nobody likes that. So I'm going to give you a plan of action. And I think I kind of alluded to this before, but who knows if you heard me or saw it or if it froze or what. The plan of action is going to be in the front part of the class, because I don't like it when I watch online classes and then they save like all the juicy tidbits for the end. I'm like, no, people are here, people are busy, people have lives, so we're gonna get right to it. All right, I want you to choose several of the action steps from what I'm about to say, from these slides that I'll upload later, and tell me when you will specifically implement them this month. So first is to choose a book from the following 3 books and read it. Okay. Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. Such a definitive work on boundaries. Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. Queen. She's amazing. The Best Yes by Lisa TerKeurst. Such a good book, especially if you have trouble saying no. It's a good one. Okay. The second thing I want you to think about doing is to block off 1 hour of uninterrupted me time at some point in the month. Another thing you can do is to practice saying no. Literally practice. Like, figure out a way to actually role play or just look at yourself in the mirror and practice. Practice not saying should, even in your mind, because should is a word that totally connotes guilt, and we don't want that. That's not something that we need when we're trying to set healthy boundaries. Like people say, like, I should do this for this person, or I feel like I should volunteer for this, or I should give them money. Shoulds are bad. Let's just put it that way. Okay. Number 5, find a way to say no that you're comfortable with. There's so many ways to say no. And the thing is, it's uncomfortable for most people. So you're going to have to figure out a way to say no in a way that you're comfortable with. And I'm going to go over a whole bunch of different ways to say no later on. So that can make it a little bit easier for you. You can choose the one that you like the best. Okay. Number 6 is to spend a whole day by yourself, because most people who struggle with boundaries don't really know themselves. They're not very self-aware. And that self-awareness helps you grow in being able to tune into where there's bitterness and resentment, where you may need to set a boundary that you didn't even know before. So that's really important. Okay, so think about this month, even putting your phone away for a whole day. Not yet if you're watching on a phone. Message me to share how you're doing with your boundaries. I would love to hear from you at any point, because this is an ongoing thing. This is not something that we just learned about one time and then we're like, oh, cool, I got everything I need to know about boundaries. You're going to learn a lot here, but it's going to keep coming up over and over again in your life. Trust me. So I'm here for you. Like, let me know how I can help. Number 9 is to be on the lookout for resentment. Like I said, it's a big deal feeling, and you need to pay attention to it, because that is a clear sign that a boundary needs to be set. Okay, so let's talk about the nice girl's guide to saying no, because let's be real, we don't like that word a lot, right? Okay, let me talk about some ways to say no when you know you can't do the thing joyfully. So I want you to ask yourself, when you are thinking about, should I say yes or should I say no to something? Do I have resentment? Can I give this joyfully? Can I do this willingly? Like, could you imagine yourself complaining about this later, or is it something that you're really, really excited to do? All right, Here's some nice ways. Ready? I wish I could, but things are way too crazy for me right now. I can't commit to that right now, but I'll let you know if anything changes. Ready for this one? The next one's good. No. It's a full sentence, friends. You're not a jerk for just leaving it at no. It may take practice. I'm just saying you don't have to give an excuse, because if you're like me, you sometimes always feel like I have to give an excuse. Oh my gosh, like this is crazy. I have to say 16 reasons why I can't do this thing or they're going to hate me. I don't know if they're going to hate you, but you don't have to give any reasons why. Just leave it at that. Okay. I'm already overcommitted at the moment, but keep me in mind for next time. That's a nice way to say no. Okay, here's a good one. Let me think about it and get back to you. And you might end up saying yes, but you'll have a chance to really think about the response before you give it. And that one has been huge for me in my personal life. My big struggle with boundaries was always like, I would be like, sure, okay, like really quickly, because I would just be like afraid of like an awkward silence. Ironic, right, for a therapist. But really being able to say, you know what, I'm going to think about that, and then I'll get back to you, has been a game changer for me in terms of how I set boundaries in my life. So I highly recommend that one. And I really, really, really want to break it down to this one point, which is that boundaries make you healthy, not mean. And so if there's one thing that you take away from this class, it's that you are not mean for setting boundaries. And people may make you feel mean for setting a boundary, but that does not mean that you are. And we're going to talk a lot more about that later. Okay, here's the truth about setting boundaries. Boundaries make your relationships better. Boundaries make you healthier. Boundaries model health for others. This is especially important if you're a parent. Your kids are looking at you and they're going to watch you to see how you set boundaries, and that's going to be their model for how to set boundaries, probably, in their life. No pressure, guys. But that's just something that makes me feel like I really need to work on setting boundaries because I want my kids to have healthy relationships too. Okay, boundaries are necessary for any committed relationship. A healthy relationship cannot exist, honestly, without them. Boundaries help you explore who you are. Like I said, that self-awareness piece is in there again. And boundaries give you your power back, which is like the whole point, right? It's so frustrating to feel like we don't have any power, that we're just going to be manipulated or walked over or controlled. But boundaries do the work for us, or we do the work through setting boundaries. And then that helps there to be less of that manipulation and control by other people in our lives and more of the good stuff. Okay. Also, I want to just let you know that boundaries are recommended by every single therapist ever, #truth, and that a little warning goes along with that. Setting boundaries may cost you, but not setting them will cost you way more. That's just real talk. Okay, so I looked up resentment in the dictionary. It's a noun, and it says, it means bitter indignation about having been treated unfairly. Yikes. Resentment is like a blaring siren telling you, like I said earlier, that it is time to set a boundary. So we need to really pay attention to ourselves when we feel resentment. This is why meditation is really good, or just sitting in stillness for a few minutes every day to just see what comes up. And if it's like resentment or like complaining thoughts or just guilty thoughts, those are good things to be aware of because it's very likely that a boundary needs to be set. So think about the person or people that you complain about most often, whether it's to others or just to yourself. And think about, are you harboring resentment because they ask too much of you, treat you unkindly, or try to manipulate or control you? And if so, it's time for a boundary. Now, our feelings, I want to say this carefully, are not always reliable truth tellers. So if you're feeling resentful, it's helpful to check in with a therapist or a trusted friend to make sure that your expectations are realistic and you aren't inadvertently engaging in codependent thought patterns. Because, I mean, it's easy for me to sit here and be like, oh my gosh, everybody, I need boundaries because of all the unhealthy people in my life. But sometimes I could be the unhealthy person. Sometimes you could be the unhealthy person. It just totally depends on relationship dynamics, and we need to be willing to step up and kind of explore that and just be cautious of it, I think. So practice makes progress, my friends. I want to tell you straight up, this is going to be hard work. It will feel so uncomfortable for most people the first time that you start setting boundaries. And that's okay, because the more that you practice setting boundaries, the easier it will become. And I promise you, I can tell you that from personal experience. And I can also tell you that it is 100% worth it because of the peace that I feel and the way that I no longer feel that resentment. And I know that my clients feel the same way, that I've worked through many boundaries issues with, and I want that same peaceful feeling for you. So I want to give you 10 ways to practice setting boundaries, okay? Let's commit to trying one of these ideas at least in the next week. Okay. 1 is to role play a difficult conversation with a therapist or friend before you have it. 2, write out what you have to say before you say it. 3, make a list of 3 behaviors you are no longer willing to tolerate. Again, think about where resentment comes in and what makes you feel like, gosh, this is so uncomfortable. I dread this. I complain about it. I hate it. And write those down. Decide on a natural consequence that you will impose if someone oversteps your boundary. Ask yourself, what will this cost me before saying yes to something new? That's so important because it will always cost you something. Even if it's just time, but it's time away from other things. So ask yourself that question. 6 is remind yourself that you are in charge of how people treat you. You can't control them, but you have a vital role in the relationship dynamic and you have to own your part. 7 is, like I said earlier, decide what you need and practice asking for it in the mirror. Seriously, I know that sounds weird and dumb, but or practice it with a friend. I don't care where you practice it, but practice saying the words so that they become more comfortable to you. It's literally like the same as an actor or actress saying lines in a play or a movie. 8, check in with yourself regularly around whether or not you feel guilty about saying no or setting a boundary, and explore why with a therapist or friend if so. Number 9 is write this down 3 times. I have permission to say no. Like at all times. You do. So write that down and literally make it just get into your head because it's true. 10, journal about 3 things that you are no longer comfortable doing and all the reasons why. So important. Okay. Now, really quickly, I want to talk about the other side of boundaries, which is another less frequently discussed boundary-related topic is how to handle it when people set boundaries with us. And though for most of us people pleasers are recovering people pleasers, that will not be an issue, but I would be remiss if I did a whole class on boundaries and did not talk about this at all. So if you find it difficult to deal with it when people won't live up to your expectations, it's always important to check in with yourself, like the meditation piece, or someone else, to make sure that the expectations were reasonable in the first place. Because I think, again, we have to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes it's so easy to just feel like we are right and everyone else is wrong, and we don't want to come off that way. We want to really dig in deep and see if that's right. So while it may be tempting to discuss this with someone that you know will certainly agree with you, it's much better to seek out a neutral party to do this. And again, this is why therapists pretty much rock at this, because they're neutral. They're not going to just agree with you. They're going to listen and just figure out what's really going on. So maybe by this time in our class, you're starting to notice a little theme that therapists are so helpful when it comes to working through troubling circumstances with difficult people. Now, for over 7 years, I've worked exclusively in private practice with clients who've had amazing results as I teach them to recognize toxic people, set boundaries, and increase their peace. And I love my job, and I'm a huge proponent of therapy, and that is why I started my Self-Care Bestie, which is just to help as many women as I possibly can, because I honestly believe every single person should have access to a therapist, and it shouldn't have to cost an arm and a leg. But honestly, the sad truth about therapy is that it's very expensive most of the time, and many women cannot afford it. So what I wanted to do was offer very, very similar, if not the same benefits as therapy, but for a fraction of the cost of therapy. So while my Self-Care Bestie, my online community of women who are just striving for self-care gains, is not meant to replace therapy, it allows me to teach the same skills and provide the same encouragement that I do in an office session, but for less than $1 a day. And I'm a big fan of that. So I literally provide the same encouragement and support, and it's available to you guys in my Self-Care Bestie membership. It provides, for those of you who don't know, members-only content from a therapist, yours truly, every single month. So my Self-Care Bestie is where I will show you how to make time for self-care, including setting boundaries, without feeling guilty about it, because there is no time for that. Find the balance between taking care of yourself and taking care of others, another ginormous struggle, like I said, for people pleasers and people who struggle with setting boundaries. And finally, stop neglecting yourself so you can show up to your life as the best possible version of you. Now, inside our group, you will get unlimited access to my best videos, meditations, and self-care materials, and your monthly subscription of $22 includes 2 monthly classes taught by me, including live Q&A, a principle plan for self-care focused on a new topic each month, a guided meditation, self-care product recommendations, chances to win self-care goodies, and personally connect with me and other members inside of our private Facebook group, because this little group is going away in about a week, but the My Self-Care Besties group is all up and running, and it has been for some time, and we're going to keep it going. I love it so much. Okay, you can choose the $22 a month membership, or you can choose the annual membership, which includes a free 20-minute call with me to just talk about whatever you want, and I can help you through whatever issues you're dealing with. That's an $89 value. And it also includes a self-care snail mail package from me to you. This is like my favorite thing that I get to do. I love talking on the phone as well with you, or FaceTime or whatever, but I love sending you goodies. So $45 value for that, and that is in addition to all of the monthly materials, and the whole annual membership is $220 for the year. So I don't want you to have to take my word for it. I want to share a few things that my Self-Care Bestie members are saying inside our membership. Kate F. from Connecticut says, sometimes I get to the materials and sometimes I don't, but I always know Kathleen is here for us and that we're not alone, which makes my heart so happy. And Emily L. from Michigan said, Kathleen is always available. She shows real life and she shares great information. And that, again, makes my heart so happy. Love it. This is my passion project. This is my thing that I love to do. I am so excited to have a way to share therapy resources with way more women and for way less money. So to get your first issue and join today, you can either click on get the annual monthly subscription, annual or monthly subscription in the group. I posted the link already earlier today, so both are available. All payments are made securely using Square and Stripe, because I don't mess around with your money. And monthly members have the option to cancel at any time, and nothing renews without you knowing about it renewing. So let's just be real about all that. Okay, I want to let you know about November's materials. They're coming into members' inboxes on November 1st. It's all about breath work. It's all about how to include breath work in your self-care practice. I've been studying it lately, and I cannot wait to share exercises with you that will be so helpful for reducing anxiety, reducing anger, helping you sleep better. It's going to be fantastic. I'm so excited. In the past, in the group, we've covered topics like living intentionally, mindfulness and meditation, increasing self-confidence, holding space for others, reducing negative self-talk, cultivating a gratitude practice, how to set healthy boundaries. Literally, we've talked about this was a whole issue, but we have talked about a multitude of other things as well, and I'm so excited about all the good content that's coming your way inside the group. So don't delay. You can join today. The doors are open, but only until October 31st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So membership will not be open again after October 31st until 2020 sometime. And the price will go up. So this is your chance to kind of get in at the lowest price that I'm offering, and you can lock in your rate. So once you join, your rate is never going to go up. So, because I don't play that game. And I want to be loyal to you guys because you guys are so awesome and so amazing for showing up for this and just like hearing me out on this stuff. I'm so excited. So you can always email me or message me with any questions that you have. I'm here to help you. My email address is cbearse@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram at self_care_bestie or self-care bestie on Facebook. And like I said, joining us today, you'll get the October content, which is all about living intentionally. You will get that for free, and you'll get that today. You'll also get access to the Facebook group today. And the next month's materials about breath work will arrive in your inbox on November 1st. Like I said, all the payments are processed securely, and you are welcome to stay subscribed for as long as you like, but feel free to cancel at any time. There's zero pressure up in here. Okay, so to join, like I said, simply click the link in this group that I posted earlier today, and I now want to get to your boundaries questions. There were so many good questions asked, so this is like my most favorite thing, is answering your questions. Okay. The first question was, do you go back to relationships with family after an assault that they don't recognize? And my answer was like, absolutely not. I don't know exactly what type of assault they're talking about, but your very use of that word indicates a very serious offense. And you never, ever hesitate to set a boundary or stay away from unsafe people. And I do want to put it out there, like if you need more help with some situation like this, then I would definitely say consult with a therapist in your local area, or you can always call 211. That's the United Way, and that's a very good resource for if you're feeling unsafe or unsure what to do, or unsure of how to find a therapist in your area. Okay, so the next question Jessica asked, and Vanessa seconded it. This isn't exactly a question, but can you please just go over boundaries that I can use? How do I use boundaries without feeling guilty or having the other person make me feel guilty? Which I think we kind of covered, but I want to just talk about a little bit more in depth. Recognize guilt for what it is. So it's very important that we talk about guilt is how other people who we're trying to set boundaries with try to control us. Like their whole, like them, how they respond to you that invokes that guilty feeling, that is them trying to control you. And so when you recognize it for what it is, I think it's a little bit easier to be like, oh, heck no, like I'm not taking that, and kind of being more able to stand up for yourself. That's really important. Okay, next question. How do you help someone cope with death or divorce while not taking on their grief? Okay, so my response to this is something that I have to deal with, and someone else actually asked a question about setting setting personal boundaries in a professional relationship. I think they were a therapist or a coach. They wanted to know, kind of how to set boundaries. I honestly think you have to know your why. In grad school, I worked at a bereavement center, and my advisor told me one time, you cannot save someone else if you are drowning. So that's my first thing, is that you have to take care of yourself. You have to set a boundary, however you need to do that. So, listen, be there, be present for them, but really remind yourself this is their grief, not your grief. This is their divorce, not your divorce. Come back to that. And if you need to step away for a bit, that's okay. Every single thing that you do and you say when you're helping a friend or you're helping a client, you have to be so intentional about that self-awareness piece and just know when it's too much for you and when you might need a little break, and just be okay. It doesn't mean that you're not a good friend. It doesn't mean you're not a good counselor or clinician or coach. It just means right now this isn't good for you. And if it's not good for you, you're not going to be effective in helping them or supporting them. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Another question I got was, how do you help your kids set boundaries with strong personalities? I think the person is asking about helping their kids set boundaries with maybe other kids at school or whatever, so that's how I'm taking the question. But the answer is the same as adults do, that you practice with them setting boundaries, and that's how the progress happens. It's very important that we teach kids that boundaries protect them, that saying no protects them. I mean, goodness gracious, if we have learned nothing in this day and age, it is that there is power in saying no, and that we need to not just say no, but ensure that our no is respected. And we need to teach that to our kids from as young of an age as we possibly can in a multitude of situations. As you can see, I'm getting a little passionate about that. Mama Bear's coming out. All right, teach your kids to listen to their inner voice and tell them that that's also there to protect them. I remember my mom telling me, if you ever get on an elevator and someone gets on and it's just you and like a man or something and you feel scared, like just get off at the next floor there, but because it's always like that thing of like, oh my gosh, am I mean if I do that? Am I weird if I do that? But you have an inner voice for a reason. If you're walking through a dark parking garage by yourself, those types of things, that inner voice is there to protect us. And so we need to listen and teach our kids that their inner voice is there to protect them. And then another way to teach kids to have boundaries is to respect the boundaries that our kids set with us. So a lot of times parents, and I mean, I've been guilty of this too, are like, I want to learn about your day. Tell me about your day. Tell me about your day. How you doing today? And the kids are like, I don't want to talk about it. And we can't, it's just, the sooner we learn that we can't control our kids and that we need to respect them, the more they're going to want to share with us. So that's really huge. Just any boundaries that you see them setting with you or in the home, really try to respect them. And I think that will show them, look, it is powerful when you say no. It's powerful when you say no to everyone, even mom and dad. Now, I'm not talking about when they disrespect or disobey you. I'm talking about, want things, not like need things. Okay. And remember that boundaries training takes time for kids and for adults. So it just is a matter of being consistent. Okay. Next question. How do you deal with difficult family members and especially adult children? So the answer is we pay attention to resentment. Remember that saying no and setting boundaries are an act of love, because I don't want someone to do something for me because I feel like I'm making them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to force anyone. And I know that some other people do. Some people who don't respect boundaries do want to force you to do things. But you being able to do something joyfully and willingly is an act of love towards that person. And honestly, enabling them and continuing to give them things or interact with them in ways that are not helpful, that are not healthy, is not an act of love. That is an act that's going to keep them stuck in those negative behaviors. Nothing's going to change for them until we change something. Typically, that's how it works. So I would just remember that. It's really important. Also, remember that feelings are not facts. So you may feel really guilty, but that doesn't mean that you are guilty. And you may feel really bad, but that doesn't mean you are bad, because they may be trying to make you feel bad. So remember those things. And remember that if you're feeling guilt, it means that you're setting boundaries, and that's steps in the right direction. So you may feel guilt, and it's not a matter of like not trying to feel guilt. It's a matter of understanding that guilt is a natural thing that happens when you try to set a boundary with a person who's not healthy. And this leads me right into the next question I got. Shannon says, how do you politely say no when the person keeps coming at you in different ways from different angles? I have a few people in my life that are used to pushing me to the limit, and I often eventually cave. Lately, I've been pushing back and standing my ground, but it doesn't seem well received. Oh, girl. It is not usually well received when you start setting boundaries. So I want to validate that. The person who's angry with you for setting boundaries is the one with the problem, not you. Literally think about it. If a person set a boundary with you, I'm guessing, and I know Shannon, so I know this is true, but most of us, like, they're the ones with the problem. Like, if a person sets a boundary with you, you're not going to be like, oh, sorry, no, I'm just going to walk right over you. Like, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I get it. Thanks for letting me know. That's a healthy response. So if a person doesn't respond that way to a healthy, nicely set boundary, they're the one with the problem. Remember that their anger towards you is a feeling. It is not anything that can hurt you, even though it feels uncomfortable and it makes you feel like sad or guilty. It's just a feeling and it cannot hurt you. And don't let their anger at you be a cue for you to change your behavior. That's just them controlling you again. So even if they get really mad, which they might, and that's unfortunate, but that's on them. Walk away from that business. And then make sure, this is really important, that you have healthy support systems in place, because these issues, as I said, are going to still arise like repeatedly. So it's not always fun. It's not ever fun, really, but it's really important to have a person or people in your corner that you can keep running these things by as they come up, so that you can feel supported, because this is not work that you can do by yourself. Let's just be very honest about that. So I want to wrap up and just say thank you, guys. Oh my gosh, I sped through that. I was having some tech issues, as you know, threw me off my game big time, but you guys stuck in here with me, and I'm so thankful for you. And I just want to thank you for the privilege of teaching you and just being able to serve you in any way that I can. I'm serious when I say message me or reach out for anything. I'm totally here for you. And there's no pressure whatsoever to join my Self-Care Bestie at all. I would love the opportunity to continue to journey with you inside the group if you're feeling led to that. But otherwise, you know where to find me online, and I'm so looking forward to sharing more amazing content and classes with you in the future, and I'm just utterly grateful for you. So thank you guys. I will upload the slides tonight or tomorrow, and I just really appreciate you guys. Thanks for sticking with me.